Dear guests, welcome to episode number 28 of the show. I'm your host, Rida, and this is the Psyche and Human Body podcast. Today's episode is going to be like a milestone in us here in the show because one thing, this is the first episode of which we filmed in a professional studio. And good news, stay tuned because more to come in the future. The show is expanding. Now we're going to be working with a professional studio for the future for the physical episodes. And we have a video editor now in the team as well. So the show is expanding, the production is expanding. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So the guest of the day is called Eva. Eva is a life coach and she's from Poland. Today, she's going to be talking about several topics, out of which the holistic health, self-love, self-care, emotional health, social media, and many others. And there's a very interesting topic that she's going to be talking about, out of which is finding balance in the age of social media and the power of self-love and self-care. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoyed, please let me know. So I would know that, for example, you enjoy such episodes in such a production. And I need to know if you enjoyed the professional studio and the professional editing. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the
Ewa, thank you very much for accepting the invite. Thank you very much for being here today. I very do much appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Reda. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Ewa, let me start off the conversation by a very simple question. Who is Ewa?
A few months ago, I'll probably give you a different answer.
Okay.
I feel like my life has evolved and shifted so much in a short space of a few months. But I am originally from Poland. And I moved to London when I was 18. So London kind of became my second home. But after rainy 12 years, I really craved more from life. And then I decided to leave and I moved to Dubai. And my background has been in marketing for tech companies. But my passion has always lied in movement and health. So I had a dance business on a side for many years. That was bringing me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And recently, I began my career in holistic health. So I specialize in helping people become healthier.
All right.
And especially women getting their body they want so that they can get the life they want.
I'm going to get into the holistic part of life later on in the conversation. But however, you mentioned something that when you went to London, you felt, let's say, something is missing. Why is that?
I think one of the very distinct memories that I have when I realized that moment was when I was standing outside of the Oxford Circus station, finished work, and it was dark and raining, and I was standing under this umbrella amongst the sea of other people. So imagine 200 people in each corner of the tube station waiting to go inside, but just standing and waiting like sardines, one next to another. In the rain, in the wind, in the cold, and the tube station was overcrowded. And that was one of those moments when I was like, I'm working my A off, but I am tired, I am burnt out. There's more to life. And I think, the lifestyle that I was living, it takes about an hour to get to work, typically 45 minutes to an hour, and then same thing going back home. So it was tiring. And I think after 12 years, I love London. I love my work experience and the life experience that I gained there. But after a while, I was just like, I think there's more. I want to be in a sunny place. I want to live in a sunny place. I want to live by the beach. And actually, that's what I wrote in my journal. I said, by the time I turn 30, I'm going to be living by the beach. And I didn't know where. I just wrote it down, and I was 28. And then I moved to London a month before my 30th birthday.
Oh.
Sorry, I moved to Dubai.
A month before your 30th birthday.
A month before my 30th birthday.
And how do you feel now, like living over here? then?
So I think I'm experiencing a very different side to Dubai. Right now, I live close to the beach, and that has had such a beautifully a positive impact on my life because I get to be on the beach every single day, and I do my morning beach walk. So I feel like I'm loving Dubai, and it's loving me back. And it's the same with the plant. If we say bad things, bad words to the plant, it's not going to grow. If we say positive, beautiful, loving words to Dubai, to a plant, it's going to grow. So I think it's the same analogy that I'm using for Dubai. I'm loving it, and it's loving me back. And I'm meeting really interesting people. I am very grateful for all the opportunities that are coming my way since I kind of said, you know what, Dubai is the place where I really want to be and continue my career growth.
So let's say like setting your mind, like finally finding a place where you were like, all right, this is the place for me. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Now let's start like a new life.
Yes.
So you started with the holistic journey. What is the holistic journey that you started with?
So I've always been a big advocate of health and leading a healthy life. It's never really, it's not always been the case for me. I didn't lead a holistic lifestyle a few years ago. I've been an advocate, but I know there was a point in my life where I was not leading it. You know, I was going out, partying, not sleeping well, waking tired in the morning, and you know, drinking way too much coffee, also alcohol, and all of these things combined led me to live an unholistic life. And then I realized that it's not really working in my favor. I gained a lot of weight, and I struggled with losing that weight. And I think there was a point in my life where I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And I made some changes to my lifestyle. And I realized that it's not just the food that we eat that impacts our weight and our health.
True.
It's about this holistic approach, which includes your emotional health, your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional health. So once I realized that, the changes that I made had such a positive impact on my life that I decided to dig much deeper. And that's when I decided to study becoming a holistic health coach so that I can help others on their journey as well.
Eva, you know, like starting with this journey, I think is the toughest part. Like, for example, from my experience, when I'm a personal trainer. So like getting people to start with this is the hardest part. So for you as Eva, like how did you start? For example, if there's someone that I want to advise, how can I push them to start? How did you start?
So the way I started, I think for me it's gotten to the point where I burned out at work. And you know, for me it was kind of like, that's it, like no more. This is not working for me. I need to make some changes. And I went for a 10-day Vipassana. Some people call it retreat. Some people call it prison.
From prison to retreat.
Because it's a silent meditation.
Two extremes.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a silent meditation course, and you're not supposed to, you know, you don't talk.
Oh, really?
You meditate for 10 hours a day, and that really reset me. So I think the advice that I could give is find that reset for yourself, whether it's a meditation course or whether it's a holiday or whether it's a vacation or something that can take you away from the current reality that you're in. Say working really hard or you know, taking care of the family, or if you have a busy social calendar, then all of that takes a lot of energy. So my recommendation would be, see how you can take yourself away, even if it's just for a couple of days, I know someone's got family, that might be
Yeah.
a little bit more difficult, but if you don't have those big commitments, try to take yourself out for more than 2 days to give yourself a reset and calm your nervous system down,
Yeah.
which I think is a big part of, lowering your cortisol levels, lowering your stress response, and then see how you're going to feel and how's that going to impact
You
you.
know, it's like, for example, like trying to filter out all the noise, trying to reconnect to ground zero for
Yeah.
you as a human. Like, what are my basic needs? Let's start from zero. Then we start building up. Because via time, we get overwhelmed by all the noise around us from people, work, social media, everyone around us. And you sometimes feel like, hey, I want to take a break from everything and talk to myself. What do I really want? What is it that people are imposing on me which doesn't connect with me? Where do you think, like now, the role of social media is taking us as humans? What do you think of it?
The role of social media.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to distinguish how to use social media to your advantage, right? Because if you're using it to your detriment and if someone's on social media constantly for 10 hours a day, just scrolling, consuming the content that's not really serving you, not really giving you any benefit, then, then that connotation to social media is going to be negative. But if you're using social media to your benefit for your business, for making new connections, for education, whether it's educating yourself or educating others, maybe for some fun videos, I think there's a healthy way of using it. But we need to feel like we're in charge of how much we spend on social media. But as an example, I was going through a personal a sort of moment and a few months ago, and in January I decided to just completely take a break.
All right.
So I logged off for a month, and I think that kick-started some really good habits that I actually started doing instead of scrolling on social media. So, you can choose to do like a hard reset, log out for a few days, weeks, and see how you feel, because that allowed me to have so much more time for other things. So I started meditating in the morning, started waking up really early, meditating, going for my morning walks, and that gave me like 4 hours of my day before I even started working, without checking social media, without, distractions.
I see.
So yeah, I'd say try to find a healthy way of using it to your benefit. And if we know, like we've got that in the gut instinct. It's like, oh, I really should just put my phone away now.
Yeah.
So I would say listen to your gut feeling and try to find that balance.
You know what? The other day I was like reading about how is it that nowadays, ideally, we think that we have a lot of connections. Ideally, we should be more social, but people are feeling more and more lonely. So it asks the question, how is it that when you open social media, you see all these numbers of followers, people talking to you, and so on? However, yet we still feel lonely. Why is that? Like, why is it the virtual world doesn't connect with us as humans, in a sense? What do you think?
I think the power of in-person conversation is so much higher than the power of an online connection. And when you sit with someone like we're sitting right now, right, we're having a deep conversation, and it's so much more powerful because I can feel your energy.
Yes.
And I can, we can use our body language to express ourselves. So it's not just the voice, it's the body language. And it's so much more powerful, and you can't do that online.
I see.
So still there's a lot of amazing educational fun content that you can find on social media, but when it comes to connections, and you can make connections on social media, which is great. This is how we met.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I'm not saying it's all bad,
it's
just
all
saying.
bad. Exactly. But there's so much power, and I think, yeah, as a coach, as a specialist, it's so good to be able to have those conversations with our clients face to face as well, because then that just kind of brings out, strengthens that relationship with your clients, and builds, yeah, a closer rapport. And I'm not saying it's not possible to do that online, but I think that importance of feeling someone's energy,
Yeah.
seeing their body language, and the whole, being
It's something that is missing from the equation, let's say, of the social media. As a health coach, for example, when someone comes to you and tells you, Eva, I need some help. How do you assess? How do you read them, for example? How does the consultation goes and how do you guide them through it?
So there's a few questionnaires that I like to send first to kind of gauge where they're at in their health journey.
Yeah.
And I don't like to say weight loss journey, it's a health journey, because it's important to, as a holistic health specialist, it's important to look at all the aspects of their lives. So, for example, stress, what are the stressors in their lives? What is their current routine? What habits do they have? And, what is it that they're doing on a daily basis? And of course, what's their food intake like? Where are they on the scale of, from like saying eating processed foods, and the goal is to basically move that person towards a more healthier whole food diet.
Kind of a diet.
Actually, I don't like the word diet. Nutrition.
It should be like more of a lifestyle. It's basically
Lifestyle.
what we should be eating on a daily basis, ideally. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, it's such an important aspect of it. But again, health is so broad. It's not just about what we eat. So there's a lot of sort of questions that I tend to ask to kind of gauge where they're at.
You know what's very weird? Like when I talk to most of the people, they tell me that yes, we know what are the bad foods. However, they can't break out of it. Like they know what's good, they know what's bad. However, breaking the cycle is very hard. So from your experience, why do you think it's breaking the cycle so hard? Why is it that they can't just leave it and be like, okay, that's it. Let me start with the good things. Sometimes I honestly think that we as humans have a tendency to self-destruct ourselves. Because it's just like smoking. When you read on the label, they say literally that this is going to harm you, it might kill you. But people just still take it. What do you think is that?
I think it's because it's a habit. And once something becomes a habit, it can be quite challenging to change that habit. Because if the way our brain works is that if fires and wires the circuits together, and the more the fire and wire together, the more stronger the connections become in between the neurons. So, gonna get a little bit too scientific here, but when that happens, and it happens constantly on a daily basis, it can be quite challenging to change that.
I see.
So my recommendation would be try to, look at it from this perspective of like, how is this habit serving me at the moment?
Yeah.
How is it making me feel on a daily basis? Like really go and sit down with yourself and say, how is that making me feel? Is it making me feel better or worse? Or does it actually influence other people, like my family, in a positive or negative way? And then say to yourself, what can I replace that habit with? Or what can I add to my day that will have a positive impact instead of constantly doing this habit? And let's say if it's smoking, really look at like, how is this affecting you? Do some tests. And like do some body tests, because I think it's important to see it on paper. Like sometimes we're in denial.
True,
right?
very true. Very
that
true.
can be a denial thing. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. But when you do tests, you see black on white. It's like what's happening in your body. And whether it's a full body checkup or specific kind of tests, and I recommend doing that because then you know exactly what's happening in your body, and then you can make a more informed decision instead of being in denial.
I see. So maybe like seeing the result hands-on
Yeah.
might like break the cycle for you, or like be like, all right, no, this is real. So I have to do something. For example, I hear that from usually fathers, like if they are starting a family and so, they tell me that, all right, I want to have more energy to be able to play with my kids. Because when I'm trying to play with them, I just can't spend time with them. And they come to me and be like, Reda, let's train, let's do something because I want to be able to live with them. So, you know, maybe this is the moment for them where it broke the cycle.
Yes. And it's a really good point, because what that means is, I think one question that's important to ask yourself is, how big is my desire? And then you weight those two options. How big is my desire to play with my kids versus how big is my desire to smoke?
Yeah.
And if your desire is bigger than, the desire to play with the kids is bigger than the desire to smoke, it's more likely that you're going to quit smoking.
Yes.
Because then you have a bigger desire to stay healthy for your kids.
Yeah. It's like the why, you know, like the root cause of why do I want to do that? Like the reason has to be strong enough in order for them to stay on it. I usually see also like the biggest lapses where people usually come to me and be like, I want to reach this weight. When they have that weight as a goal, they reach it and they're like, all right, I did it. And then they relapse because the reason for them was not strong enough. Like they didn't come and be like, hey, I want to live a healthier life. I want to live longer. I want to be better. This is like more of an approach of a lifestyle. Now, a question came to my mind. You mentioned stress. What's the effect of stress in our lives? Well, I think it's a big, it's a big effect. Let's talk about it.
That's a big one, of course. It affects every aspect of our lives, right? It doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it's coming from work or relationship or family or any kind of stresses that we add on to ourselves, you know, if it's financial. It has an effect on all the areas of our life. So even if it's stress that we have at work, it's likely that we're going to bring it home, and then that affects our home, and then affects our health. It can affect our well-being and mental health. So huge, I would say, and especially in a city like Abu Dhabi or Dubai, right? Dubai is very fast-paced.
Yeah.
And I hear from a couple of people who have moved to Dubai recently, let's say from Bali, they say that, I was like, I asked them, I was like, how you finding Dubai? And the common thread is, they say it's a lot more energy. I don't want to say draining, but it's a lot more energy requiring.
Consuming.
Yes. So Dubai is a lot more energy consuming. So what that means is they have to go to bed early. They have to sleep longer. Etc. So compared to Bali, where it's a bit, you know, the energy is very different. So I think that's why stress the level of stress in Dubai can be a little bit higher. And the recent study, for example, from Cigna Healthcare says that 89% of UAE employees experience burnout.
Oh,
sorry,
that's a big
I'm gonna
percentage.
say it again. The recent study from Cigna actually says that 99% of UAE employees experience burnout and 89% experience stress and anxiety on a regular basis. So that says a lot, I think.
Says a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it says, like, a question just now came to my mind is like, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it going through that? And on the other hand, we're affecting our health. Like, sometimes I sit and talk to myself and I'm like, what did I do in my life? Like, I've spent my life, for example, worrying about how to survive. But is this what really Reda wants? And between me and myself, no, it's not. Then the other question comes in. then how can you break the cycle? How can you get out of this? Sometimes it feels like you're in a prison and shackled. You cannot do anything about it because life has to keep moving. And if you don't work, if you don't do something to survive, then you're out of the game. What do you think? How can you break it off?
So before I answer, how did you break it off? Were you able to do it by yourself, or did you seek some help?
I didn't seek any help, but I had like a lot of talks with myself and people. Like I usually tend to talk to people who I see are more successful than me. And I'm like, how do you do it? How did you do it? Like, what happened? Advise me. Because I think that I'm lacking something over here. Because, for example, I have the knowledge for it, the theory. But when you come to apply it, applying it seems very different. So I once went to Malaysia and I was with this taxi driver and I was talking to him. And I can honestly feel that he is happier than me. And in my mind, I'm like, how is that possible? He's a taxi driver, and I'm not saying like with any disrespect for anything, but ideally, financially, and in theory, he might have a tougher life, but I can see how happy he is. And I wasn't. So I was like, why is that? So now when you mentioned like people who are coming from Bali and they are mentioning that life over here is energy consuming, it like triggers something in my mind. So like how can we break it off? I honestly don't know. I don't have the knowledge for it yet, but I want to get there one day. Tell me about it. Yeah.
So I think the first step is having the awareness, and you already have the awareness, so that's great,
Yeah.
right? You're like, I don't want to keep going like this. Something needs to change.
Yeah.
So I think that awareness, having the awareness, is step number one. And step number two is similar to what you mentioned earlier. What do I want? What do I want in life? And writing it down is very powerful. It's similar to the example when I said, what do I want?
Yeah.
I want to live by the beach. I wrote it down. And the universe conspired in my favor. That's what you want. Okay, I'm going to bring it to you.
Yeah.
So I think having that decisiveness is very important, because when we're not sure what we want, I do believe the universe is like, well, I don't know what you want either. So
If you
until
don't know what you
figure it
want,
out,
I don't know it either.
exactly.
When you figure it out, I'm here.
Yeah.
Let me know.
So I think having that clarity is super important, and whether you can do it by yourself or if you prefer to seek, some help from a coach or a therapist, why not? They're there to help you in your journey, and they're there to help you stay accountable if you feel like, you need that. Because there's books as well that you can read to help you get more clarity on like what it is that you want in life. But I think these are the first two steps. So first one, having the awareness that you want something to change, and then seeking help in order to figure out what it is that you want.
Yeah.
And then step number 3, creating an action plan and how you're going to do that. Because a thought on its own,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh, I want to spend a year in Bali. Okay, great. A thought on its own is not going to be enough. It's
Yeah.
like, what is the action that you're going to take that's going to take you closer to your goal?
Let me ask you, what do you think of because I heard this once. They say that the universe or life has a plan for you. What do you think of that? Because I have a follow-up question for that. First, let me know, what do you think of, let's say, for example, a higher power or the universe having a plan for us? Because later on, I'm going to ask you then, how do our actions affect that? Let me know.
I do believe that there's a higher power, and I do believe that there is a path that we're meant to take. When we are born, there's a path and a purpose that we have, that if we listen to our intuition and if we follow it, is going to materialize and is going to make us happy and is going to bring us that joy and fulfillment. So yes, I do believe that there is a higher power guiding us.
Wonderful. Now, the follow-up question is going to be coming from this scenario, which I'm going to be telling you about. So at a point in life, like I had something in my mind and I always said that I want to try it. I want to try it. I want to try it. So one time I quit my job and I was like, all right, now is the time. Let me try it. When I tried it, on the first week, I quit. I was like, I don't love this. Although it was something that is haunting me all my life. So now the question is, sometimes we think that we want something and it's like we're chasing ghosts. However, life had a different path for me. After I quit the thing which I thought I wanted, life put me on a different path where now I feel better. So this is why I think that sometimes like our desperation is between two extremes. The extreme of life that we think we want. However, life has a different path for us. And until we know or like trust that, hey, go with the flow,
Yeah.
I know what's better for you. Yeah. Trust me on this. Like sometimes like giving up or surrendering to the universe or life puts you on a way that might be better for you. Yeah. What do you think of it?
So when 2024 started, I asked myself, what do I want this year to be about? What's the one word that I want it to be about? And the word that came to me was surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to control everything.
Yeah.
And the moment I said that, amazing things started happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just surrendering and I'm watching and I'm seeing what happens. Because last year, I tried to control so many things and I tried to plan so much.
Yeah.
And so many plans didn't go to plan.
Yeah.
But there was a reason why they didn't go to plan. It wasn't my path. So instead of controlling it, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to sit, live, enjoy every day, and be very grateful for every day. And then incredible things started happening. I started meeting great people. And that's one of the things that I was meditating on. I was like, I want to make new connections. I want to, have deep conversations.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Dubai. People say, oh, it's very superficial. It's only superficial if that's if the people that you surround yourself with are superficial.
The environment.
The environment, exactly. So if you surround yourself with people who have, a lot of great things to say, then the perspective changes. And one other thing happened when I said surrender. So going back to holistic health, when I lived in London and I was teaching dance, some of the students came to me and asked me to help them with their weight loss journey. So back then I took a nutrition course and I was able to help them, and they've seen great results.
Yeah.
But then I didn't continue with it because I actually, at that time, I didn't have that knowledge of like how to structure the business in a way that I can actually make it, turn it into a business, a profitable business. So I started resenting it because I was putting so much time in my coaching, but I wasn't
seeing the return, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a lesson that I learned. So there was a friend of mine who reached out to me again a few months ago, and she said, "Can you help me on my weight loss journey?" And I was like, "Hang on a second.
I know this.
There is is this that I feel like that's what was happening.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like the universe is giving me a nudge, saying, you know what, that's the path that you want.
Now you might be ready.
And I knew that in order to help her, I actually needed to upgrade my knowledge, and that's why I decided to do the health coaching course from the Health Coach Institute in America. So. Yeah, I was like, that's the thing. When I surrendered and I said, I'm just going to listen and surrender and see what happens. This is what started happening. And I started to tune into those messages. And I think that's the important bit.
Great advice. Like surrendering to life, going with the flow, might be like a thing which people have to practice more often to get out of, let's say, depression or anxiety that comes from failing. The plans that they're planning. Because as you mentioned, like surrendering, like is a good way to go with it because maybe there's something better for us out there.
And on the failing
Yeah.
topic, it's a very good point, because I read something that really resonated with me recently. It's like failure is just a redirection.
Mm. Redirection to a different road.
Yep.
This didn't work, so let me see what's gonna happen later on. Maybe I have like a new path, which is gonna be better. I'm gonna be happier. Gonna take me into a new journey, new chapter in life.
Exactly. So no such thing as failure. It's just a redirection. So instead of thinking, failed,
Yeah.
I failed again, I failed, I'm like, why is it not happening for
Yeah.
me? Is something else meant to be happening for me instead? Let me surrender and see.
I see. Eva, let me ask you, what do you think that the differences between humanity, let's say 100 years back, and humanity now? Because like when I see people back then, I think they had a very simple life, uncomplicated life. They were happier, they were more fit, they had lesser problems, let's say, than what we are facing now. How do you think we got here from then?
It's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
It made me think today. So, obviously, with the advancement of technology, we're just subjected to so much information on a daily basis, and it's an overload of information. And 100 years ago, if you had an idol or a singer, an actress, or an actor that you admired from newspaper, what were the chances that you had an insight of what's happening in their daily lives on a
Nothing.
zero? And now every single one that you admire, you can follow, you can have a glimpse of what their daily life looks like, and that's just an example of like the people that let's say your celebrities or your friends, etc. So with the advancement of technology, but I also think that nowadays we're just a lot more vocal about our lives and our unhappiness or our unfulfillment. I think 100 years ago, there was no such thing as, I'm not really feeling very fulfilled in my career.
Yes.
It was just kind of like, I need to go to work.
Something
I
they
need
have to
make
do.
money for my family.
Yeah.
And then, women were mainly at home raising the family. So it was a very different dynamic to the dynamic that it's now. So I think it's just a very different
Dynamic of the society.
of how we live.
You mentioned something that I think is a cause for some of the anxiety and depression and mental problems that the society nowadays is going through, which is for us to have a window on the private lives of others. For example, now if I open social media, I'm gonna take a look at life of someone else, which I might think that they are happier, they're more successful. So it begs the question, why not me? How can I get there? So this insight of the lives of others is going to make you think, why am I not there? So this question of why am I not there or why can't I do it? Or for example, when you even get there, you sometimes feel unfulfilled. I read once that the highest rates of suicide are for people who are rich and fulfilled and rock stars even back then, because they got to a point where they have everything. They have the money, they have the luxury, but still they are not fulfilled. Now, on the other hand, we have, let's say, people who are on the lower edge of the society. They always have in their mind, I'm not there yet because. So there's a reason. I'm not happy yet, I'm not fulfilled yet because. So usually they blame governments, they blame the culture, whatever it is that they're blaming on. But they have a thing to wake up in the morning and try to get there. They still have a goal. And this is why they usually say that the rates of suicide are on the higher, let's say, part of the society, because they think that they have everything, yet still they are not fulfilled. So life fulfillment is an essential part of, let's say, happiness, gratefulness, Are you fulfilled in life?
I am fulfilled, but I know that there is more coming, and I look forward to that very much. Like, I know that there's more that I can give. And the more I give, I feel the more fulfillment I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, let's say you mentioned happiness, and people are not really happy, I think it's because we're seeking that happiness externally and not internally. So when I say I'm fulfilled, it's because I've done a lot of work on myself to feel happy from within. And I think that's why I'm okay. I'm good, but I know also that I can give more, and that's gonna help me feel more fulfilled, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's also, even if I don't, I'm okay with that because I'm happy with who I am right
Internally.
now. It took me a little bit to get there. But I think that's what happens when people seek that happiness from external things,
Yeah.
and they want more, and that's why they're not feeling fulfilled, because they're just as external. It's a car. I want to get a car. Okay, I get the car. Oh, now I want a bigger car. Okay, and I get a bigger car. Okay, I want a bigger car.
Yeah.
Or I am earning X. Okay, I'm happy with it for a year. Now I want more. I
Yeah.
want to double that. I want to triple that. Blah, blah, blah. So it's that external thing that
Yeah.
is fulfilling them. So what is important is, like, ask yourself, what's fulfilling me from here, from
Yeah.
within? What can I do to feel that fulfillment from the inside? And I think that's something that no one can take away from you.
Internal happiness, like internal love. For example, now when you open social media, they have this tendency to make you feel that you are never perfect. You are never enough. For example, if you have a straight hair, no, you should have a curly hair. If you have a curly hair, then oh, no, this is not good. You should have a straight hair. If you're tall, you're thin. You need to be thin.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever it is that you are, they have this tendency of making you feel not perfect.
Not good enough.
And this sensation of not being good enough always creates this resentment in ourselves. Why am I not good enough? So as you mentioned, I think that self-love, internal love, is a key thing that we have to look for as a society to have a better days, happier days, more fulfillment and joy. And maybe we can reflect that to the people around us. Some people might think that it's egocentric to love yourself, but I think that if you love yourself, you're going to reflect better. It's like a ripple effect for others. What do you think? Yeah.
100%. I think personally, my journey with self-love, a year ago, it would be just a quote that I saw on Instagram, and I was just like, self-love, like, BS.
Yeah.
But I've gone through a big transformation over the past 12 months, and now I can actually say that I do love myself. It's a daily practice. It's not something that just you arrive at
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm good for life.
I'm there, I'm good.
It's a journey. And what that means for me is, when, for example, there's a betrayal, and you betray someone,
Yeah.
you betray them, but you betray yourself first. So in order to give love to others, you need to love yourself first. And that's something that, I didn't know. And then I know now. And thanks to the journey that I've been on, it just made me really realize how important that self-love is. So when you're talking about social media, remember that what you see is just not real. You see someone's highlights of their life. No one's going to post negative aspects of their life, and I think it's such a huge reminder that we need on a daily basis. It's like it's not real. It's someone's highlights, and don't try not to compare yourself to others because you're on your own journey. And I think the reason why it makes us feel not good enough is because a lot of people have a limiting belief that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
So there's typically there's more than that, but there's 12 main negative beliefs that we hold about ourselves that are most common, such as I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not powerful enough, I can't trust the world, I can't trust myself. So they're either mother derived or father derived.
I see.
And there is a gentleman of a name, William Whitecloud. If you'd like to Google him, he has a course called Create Your Destiny, and he goes into a lot of detail about these limiting beliefs. So I find it really fascinating because when you say I open the social media and it makes us feel this way, it's tapping into that limiting belief. And if we're not aware of it, then we're going to act from that place.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I need that, you
Yeah.
know, ad. You click on the ad that you see because it's going to make you feel like you're you know, it's going to make you feel good, or you're going to feel like I'm going to be good enough because I'm going to, you know, buy this and that, and it's going to make me feel.
So it gives you this illusion of good enough, let's say.
Yeah.
So I think like chasing an external idea or an external factor has to stop. Like it has to come from within. Like asking and being true with ourselves, like being honest with ourselves. Like if I really don't like that, then that's it. It's okay. Move on. The sensation of not being good enough like has to change. Like I think me or you or everyone else, the way they are is how they are special. Like you are special in the way you are. And that's your rare gem, as they say. Embrace it.
Yeah.
And don't look to how others react to that gem that you have, in a sense. Be content, and I think like this is where happiness can start, or self-love can start, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Have fun. And
Exactly.
have, you know, try new things, have new experiences, and try to say yes to yourself. I think that was a big one for me. You know, I was started to say yes to the things that I really wanted, and started to say no to situations or people that were not serving me anymore. It's like, how is this situation going to serve me? Does it feel, I always ask myself, does it feel expansive,
Yeah.
or, you know, do I contract when I say yes to something, like yes, but I actually really want to say no,
Yeah.
versus like, yes,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
it makes me feel good. So I think that's just part of that daily practice. You know, if you feel like someone's, you know, you're being asked out to go out for dinner, but you know it's gonna make you, you know, you're gonna drink, you're gonna go out, you know, you're gonna sleep very well on the back of that. You know, does that mean that you're giving yourself that love, or not?
Like, is
So
this something that you really want?
Yeah.
In a sense. Yeah.
So that those daily situations is like, no, I'm going to give myself love by staying home, going to bed early, waking up earlier the next day to go to the gym and prioritize my health, for example. So I think that's kind of like, that's part of that daily practice of like giving yourself that love.
Let me ask you one more question. Where do you think that the role of family and friends come into self-love or our health overall, holistically, in a sense? Do you think they play a role, friends and family?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Absolutely. I think primarily mental health, support, and, you know, that they fulfill that need for connection, right? Which, as we were talking earlier, social media doesn't give that.
Yeah.
So that need for connection is so important. But I think that there's a deeper need for fulfilling connections, because if the connection is just superficial, and then say people say that, oh, I've got so many friends, what is that level of friendship that is there? Like, how deep are your conversations? Or
How
do you just talk
emotionally
about
connected,
exactly,
invested with that person.
Yes, how emotionally connected you are. And I think especially in a place like Dubai can be a bit challenging, because people come and go, right? Friends come and go and leave, and we left our families to be here. So I think that's where that challenge is. And, you know, I think we need to make a conscious decision to go and see our family more often. And that's something that I'm working on, because my family is in London and in Poland. So, since, unfortunately, actually, my mother passed away last year.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. That, has been a big wake-up call, because I do wish I'd gone and see her more often, because she passed away. She was very young. She was only 62, and it was a big shock for everybody. But it made me think. I'm like, my father is still alive. My brother has had two girls, and I want to be able to spend more time with them. So that's my goal, and it's kind of made me shift that perspective as well on like how important it is to stay close to our family,
Connecting with the family and friends. I think it's like because we're a social species. Like we need people around us. We need like a good social circle to thrive, to support us. They used to say that you need a village to raise a kid, which is basically the idea, because if you as a parent, you need to live as well, and maybe back then they needed to provide, hunt, whatever it is. So the friends and family used to care for the kids. So we as humans are a social species. We need to surround ourselves with good friends, family, have good rappers to say, and relationships to thrive, in a sense. Eva,
Great questions.
thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
I
so
really did enjoy the
much.
conversation with you.
Likewise.
Wish you nothing but happiness for you and your family, and all the best for you. And
Likewise.
it was a pleasure.
Likewise, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eva.
For having me.